Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Julia Ollison. I'm with the German Office for International Cooperation in Vocational Education and Training, GOVT, here at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, BIBB, in Germany. And in my presentation, I will look at the continued education and training and how it is preparing the workforce in Germany for the upcoming shifts in the labor market. And actually, what we see in Germany every day in the newspapers are headlines like these. So we see that there are huge demands by companies and the economy overall to change the skill set of workers. We see that some sectors require completely different set of skills than in the times before. And we see also overall a huge demand in labor force in general. So I will argue in my presentation today that continued education and training can be a mechanism for confronting these challenges in the labor market. However, there are still some challenges and gaps in the continued education and training system as it is in Germany today. We all know that CET, continued education and training, can be a lever, can be a mechanism to confront these shifts, and also can be a mechanism to increase retention, productivity among workers. But CET, of course, needs to be well structured and needs to come as a strong mechanism by different parties implemented to work fully. So, what is the situation in the German labor market today? Actually, we will see in the upcoming years drastic shifts and changes. Colleagues of ours here at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Germany have done extensive studies on the future demands of the labor market and the future skill set that are required by companies. We found out, together with other research institutes here in Germany and also internationally, that in Germany there will be 1.1 million manufacturing jobs that will just cease to exist in the next 15 years. And also we see that in retail, there's going to be a huge reduction of labor force requirements. However, on the other side, we see a growth in some sectors. For example, health and social services will increase drastically over the next years. And also tech-related services and companies will require new talents. Also, the construction sector and energy sector will require new staff in the future with different skill sets as they have today. We see also that there's a huge disparity with regards to the demands and requirements across the sectors, the economic sectors, and the different regions in Germany. Why do we have these challenges in Germany? Well, first of all, an international trend, as I would say, automatization and artificial intelligence are driving factors to these shifts and disruptions. But we also have some Germany-specific reasons for these changes. First of all, the demographic change. We are an aging society and population is becoming older every year. So we do have a future demand for additional workforce that we have not yet covered. Also, we see that the green transition and questions of sustainability drive this shift in skills demands in Germany. Looking at the population, we see that continued education and training actually already play a big role. About 54% of the working population participate on an annual basis in continued education and training measures and programs, which is quite a big share already. However, if we look at the target from the European Union, we are still falling short, right? And in Germany, there's only 5 years left to come up to reach the target of 65% of participation in continued education and training. And we see that there are some disparities that should be a matter of concern for policymakers. We see that there's a huge inequality in participation. Low-skilled workers are much less likely to participate in continued education and training than high-skilled workers, which further increases the gap between them. We also see that there's a gap between big companies and small companies. Small companies are much less likely to offer continued education and training to their employees. What are the main barriers and hindering factors for individuals to take part in continued education and training? Well, it's first of all time. Training is time consuming, but also, of course, the cost benefit calculation that each individual makes. Does this training program offer me to further advance in my career? This is an important factor as well. And another factor that we see is that it's very hard for individuals to navigate in the continued education and training sector. It's very hard to get an overview on the variety of programs that exist out there. On the policy level, Germany has taken actually quite some significant steps in the past years. So in 2019, different ministries agreed on a national strategy for continued education and training. This was a major step because before that, actually all the different ministries and stakeholders involved did their own kind of thing. And now there's a coordinating platform to synchronize a bit the efforts and create further synergies. And actually the stakeholders involved in the strategy have come up with priority areas of engagement. One priority area is, for example, the general literacy among adults, a huge and important topic to actually also improve the professional career pathway options for low-skilled workers. We also see that the intercompany training centers that usually are part of a chamber of craft or chamber of industry in Germany, they are also one focus area and priority area of the national strategy for CET. There are different instruments that the stakeholders have come up with. Actually, most of them have already been in place before the national strategy came into effect. A big part are vouchers that employees can get to finance a continued training program. Also, there's, from the company side, a wage compensation mechanism in place. And there are different agencies that support employees in guiding them to finding the right training program of their interest and requirement. Also, we see that micro-credentials are becoming more and more important each day, and there have been pilot programs that are supported by this national strategy. However, the strategy itself manifests that there are still some challenges to the implementation and to reaching the European Union target. It's first of all getting to the right persons. Targeting is the key word here. Then also scaling up the programs that exist and maintaining quality, because the continued education and training usually lies with training providers that come from the private sector. And it is still critical to have a streamlined quality mechanism here. So looking at this, looking at the challenges ahead, and looking at the policies and strategies in place, we do see that there are still some significant gaps. One aspect is definitely access and equality. So we have seen in the statistics that for low qualified workers, and we call them atypical workers, so workers that maybe have had a different prior education and now work in a different environment, for them it is very difficult to access the continued education and training programs. We also see that for people with migration background, it is difficult to access programs. So there should be more mechanisms in place to support these target groups. And also small and medium-sized enterprises, particularly the small ones, require further support by government institutions or agencies to really benefit also from the programs that already are in place. We also see that relevance is a topic in the sense that companies should wonder whether the programs they offer are really relevant for the future transition and for the future they have ahead of themselves as a company. What we found out is that as 77% of the trainings actually happen in the companies sometimes maintain the status quo in these trainings instead of preparing their workforce, their employees for the future. So we also see that there's still some potential for improvement when it comes to the incentives. We see that the opportunity costs and costs in general still lie heavily with the individual employees instead of with the companies or with the government. And we see, or we have seen also in the presentation, that navigating through the jungle of different CET programs is very hard sometimes for individuals. And also another point that we think requires more attention is the aspect of recognition and data. So it should be recognized that continued education and training can also be a formal mechanism of training, and it should be formally recognized to a bigger extent as it is today. And the aspect of micro-credentials needs full implementation in Germany. Recognition of prior learning is another aspect where Germany still has some homework to do, I would say. And another aspect of interest also for a research institution like ourselves would be to investigate the transitions. Thank you very much. And I hope this presentation has given you an insight into the future requirements of the labor market in Germany and the continued education and training landscape here in Germany. Thank you very much and greetings from Germany.